Yeah, I think we're live. I think we're live, guys. I hope you can see me. BC is setting up everything here, his charts, and we're going to have to get this done under 30 minutes. It's busy, market is busy, our lives are busy, totally different time zones as well. So we have to forgive us, but we really wanted to do this for you. I'm going to turn the comments on as well on the on YouTube. Take them into consideration, but obviously we're just going to have a look at the market, what happened, because loads has happened, as we know. And yeah, 2 seconds there. I'm going to make sure as well I'm sharing with everybody about this. I hope you can hear me fine, because I don't know why it seems my mic is not plugged in.
I can hear you good.
If you can hear me, I'd say guys can hear me as well. But I'm just going to make sure as BC that guys can see us and hear us with the comments. So just the awkward ads, I think they have to just play first, and then we can hit it off. Why is it not live? Manage broadcast. No, hold on a second. Stop stream. Why is it not showing me? BC, I'm not sure if we're live.
Okay, let me look on my phone. Let's see here.
Oh yeah.
YouTube.
Okay, so they're saying yeah, I'm good, and they can see me, they can hear me. All good. Great. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Why my microphone isn't working, guys. Oh, okay. Okay, that should be a little bit better for you guys now. Awesome. Right, so where do we want to start, BC?
All right. Well, we'll start first. We'll look at BTC because it's been one hell of a week for Bitcoin. As you can see, since we last talked, we put in this big, gigantic weekly candle. So a lot has moved and shifted in the market. And a lot of people, obviously they're excited, and rightfully so. The market has been starving for liquidity. So not only did BTC move really nicely, but a lot of alts put over 100%. So there, it's been a very bullish week. So there's definitely nothing to take away from that. Bull stepped up. And of course, the key question that I've been getting this entire week is 886 out of the question for me? Do I consider it invalidated? And so I want to just start by answering that real quick. I have everything ready on the chart, so it'll be a quick explanation. And to give you the answer right away is a no. It's not out of the question for me. But let me explain to you why, and let me explain to you at what point it becomes invalidated for me. So these three yellow marks, guys, I'm going to do this. I'm actually going to hide the indicators for right now, make it a little bit easier. So these three yellow lines here are basically prior lower highs. We did break through this prior lower high. So we took this lower high, which was fantastic. We still have this lower high and this lower high. Now, speaking without even looking at the EMAs, why is this important? Because this lower high, guys, if you look at any textbook, this is basically considered a downtrend. When you're putting in lower highs and lower lows, it's a downtrend. When you're putting higher highs and higher lows, that's an uptrend. So we have, in order to say that we're out of a bear market, we have to, first of all, reverse the trend. We haven't done so. All we did was break December 31st, lower high. We basically came back to the level where we were before the whole FTX fiasco happened, which is great. There's nothing, again, I'm not saying the bulls didn't step up, but in order for me to invalidate a thesis, we have to show clear invalidation. One metric doesn't do it for me. So I have to have several different indicators showing that we reverse the trend. So if we can break these prior three lower highs, and here's a very key area to break for me as well. It's the 200 EMA. So we've got the 200 EMA, which lines up very well with the last lower high. If we can reclaim the 200 EMA and clearly reverse the trend, then I would say yes, 886 is off the table as far as my opinion. Keeping in mind that anything can happen in crypto. If we fall below the 200 EMA at any point, then that becomes back on the table. One of the things about TA, guys, it's not black and white. It's moving. It's fluid. Every day there's new data coming in, so you have to adjust to that data. I have to adjust to that data. As much as I was looking forward to getting BTC at a certain price, it doesn't mean I'm going to get it. Things can change. Things can shift. Just like I'm explaining here. Same way, if we reclaim here, I take 886 off the table. I start scaling in to my long bags on BTC here, and things drop. That's why I'm not going to go all in here either. I'm going to make sure that I have a plan for both ways, just like I have a plan. If my 886 doesn't hit, where do I start accumulating Bitcoin? Some people have already started accumulating Bitcoin, and that's great. And that's great. It doesn't mean that because my macro view is bear, doesn't mean I don't day trade, doesn't mean I don't take advantage of these swings here that we have, whether it be short or long scalps. I still participate in those, but my macro view remains the same until that is proven otherwise. And one other point that I want to make, guys, is that I know everybody's bullish, and that's great. I'm very excited for what's going on in the market just as much as you are. But you have to look at something in a macro view and try to be as non-biased as possible. Look at crypto and look at broader markets. Look at any asset when they come out of a bear market. We need to, in my opinion, and this is something it's proven in the charts. We need to have, when we come out of a bear market, we go through a phase called accumulation. It's a very basic principle of coming out of a bear market. Now, a accumulation doesn't happen in a downtrend. Accumulation happens in the sideways chop. So when you look at this and you say to yourself, and you're honest with yourself, non-biased, does this downtrend, lower highs, lower low, lower highs, lower low, does this look like a accumulation range? This to me is still a downward range. So could we break out of here to all-time highs? Absolutely. Will it match an accumulation range that we historically have seen in every asset across every market? No. We could then say, when we're up here, guys, in hindsight, and we never had an accumulation range, and we're at 59,000, 69,000, we can say, you know what? There was a period in time once in Bitcoin that we didn't go through accumulation phase, and we shot straight up to all-time high. When that happens, we can definitely say that was the one time, the anomaly, that it happened. We haven't done that yet. And I'm not trying to crush anyone's excitement. I'm just pointing out the possibilities and the things that people should be looking out for. Because here's the thing, when we're putting in these candles, everybody's happy. But what happens is when we put in these candles, people start calling Bitcoin a scam. They start saying, oh, it's manipulated. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. That's not the right attitude to have. Bitcoin hasn't changed from day one, and it's not going to change in 100 years from now. It's still the same Bitcoin. So understanding the markets will keep you a little bit, I think, in my opinion, a little bit more grounded and a little bit more focused on, hey, yeah, let's make some money on the upside. But if there's some downside corrections, let's maximize that. Let's see if we can make some money. Short to midterm for me, I don't see a slowdown, to be honest with you. I think we're going to continue to move up. Now, what am I looking at for, like, say, now to 4 weeks? This is kind of what I'm looking for, a continuation. I am in the mindset that we're going to continue higher. And I think we're going to continue to basically do a basic back test that I always like to see in markets. When we lose a very important level, minimum, I want to see a back test. We never back tested this 200 EMA. So that's my target for right now, is the back test of this 200 EMA. However, as you guys know, in most markets, we don't just go straight up. Yes, we had an incredible 1 week straight up, but that doesn't normally happen. We have to have some pullback. And let me explain to you why a pullback is important. I want you to think about a rubber band, and I want you to think about you pulling a rubber band. They've already pulled a rubber band back here, and they let it go. Now, in order for us, in my opinion, to get up to 25,000, we need to have a pullback. We need to give some liquidity back into the market to keep the market happy. Because what happens when you give liquidity back into the market, guys? That's profit taking. When you see a move to the downside, that's not bearish. That's actually very positive. It becomes bearish when you start breaking certain levels, when you start breaking certain support levels. But when you put up a basic Fibonacci and you look for a continuation, I usually like to look at two different levels, guys, 382 and 0.50 for continuation. If we can come back down here, what we're doing is that we're stretching that rubber band. We're allowing that rubber band to have a little bit more velocity so that on the next move to the upside, we can make it to 25,000. What ends up happening, if we start pushing to 25,000 from here after such an exhaustive move, it becomes less probable that we're going to make it. Got a text message from my wife that our plans got canceled, so I don't have to leave in 30 minutes.
Okay.
So awesome. I just want to let you know that. So what happens, guys, is that we don't have that pullback. I'm afraid that we're not going to make it to 25,000 for that back test. So it's something that we want to make sure that we look at. Now today, extremely bullish. Now, one of the things you need to keep in mind, guys, is let me go to the hourly time frame, and I want to show you a little bit of the psychology of what goes on in these lower time frames when you look at these areas here. You see all these wicks, guys? You know what this represents? This represents trap liquidity. This represents a lot of people who basically, at one point, they bought this. They bought this. They bought this and this. They're trapped. They're now seeing this. And you know what happens, guys? Because most people don't have a plan when they buy this, they get panicky and they just want to get out. So what ends up happening is in the order books, you start getting these heat signatures. You start getting this liquidity that starts to build up and build up and build up. And you know what the market makers like to do? They like to go up there and snatch that liquidity, take it before coming back down. So a continuation from here, I hope that we don't see it until we get a nice, decent pullback, give the market makers back some profit so they can have an incentive to move the market up. So I think right now what we're doing today is we're going after this trap liquidity. And when I look at let me show you something, guys. A lot of you guys know that I like using high block.
Yeah, you love your heat map.
Yeah. These heat maps are so useful because they tell us the type of money that's trapped up on top. And just let me briefly show you this, guys. You got to look at the amount of these contracts. So this is basically if the market makers can manage to get the price up in this area here. Let me show you how much money they're going to make. Let's see. We've already wiped out these contracts from right here. We've got this contract here is for 34 million, 85 million, 47 million, 103 million, 30 million, 27 million. It goes on and on. There is about $600 million worth of reward for the market. So the last contract at the moment stands at 22,359. Now let's take a look at what 23,359 signifies. Is there any correlation to that on our charts? And guess what? Look at this. Look at this, guys. Look how this stuff lines up. Look at this wick here. Look at this wick here. This line is support resistance at 22,387, $30 above the last contract in high block. Do you see that trap liquidity? So that liquidity is all that trap liquidity in here that they're trying to go for. So we have a couple of areas that I'm looking for to pick up that trap liquidity. First would be the recent wicks that we had. This here is something that I would love to see get hit after the retracement. Again, guys, the more, and I'm sure Marta has seen this, when we go parabolic, the higher the parabolic move, guess what happens, guys? The harder the drop.
Yeah.
The harder the drop. I don't want to see a hard drop. A hard drop makes it much more difficult to get out of. So think of a big hole. If you jump into a hole, if you're 6 foot tall and you jump into a hole that's 12 feet, it's going to be very tough to get out of. If you jump into a hole that's 3 feet and you're 6 feet, you can climb out of it much quicker. So I would really like to not climb any more above where we're at right now. get us a decent pullback. I have orders actually, buy orders in this level here for a continuation. If it continues, great. If it doesn't, then the next area that I'm looking at is going to be basically the 618 and 786. Now, these two are key levels as well in a Fibonacci. But here's the thing: if we reach these levels, if we do, it becomes less probable of a spring to the upside. So here provides us that spring that I'm looking for to move up into that $25,000 area. Here would now constitute more of an accumulation range. That's kind of what a golden pocket Fibonacci is. You'll see a lot of time where we hit a Fibonacci level. What do? We kind of find resistance or we find support. And then we kind of just range there to kind of catch our breath. I don't want to range. I want to move up to the next level. And so for me, I'm looking this week for these two levels to get respected, hit, have my orders in there, and have an invalidation as well in case we do fall below and go into this accumulation range. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. Weekend is here. Today's Friday. Yeah. We don't have much left in the day.
Not even really only just the weekend. Movement. I think it's a new moon as well, which I think also is something that a lot of people, put in the charts and
I do too. Yeah, here, as a matter of fact, I have it's called MP. If you guys want to add it to your, let's actually talk about this. Now that I have time, I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to turn on
I just wanted to kind of touch on those, BC, before we go on to the moon.
Sure, I really absolutely.
I think it's worth mentioning this and not brushing it off as some fad. But what I just want to do is just really echo what you were talking about in terms of how fast this move happened. And I understand everyone is getting super, super excited. And it's, wow, we've moved so fast. We recovered so well. And all that euphoria is coming into play. But healthy retraction, side action, continuation is a sign of a healthy market. It's a sign of market absorbing the news, the liquidity, and everything that's happening around us, and not reacting in a rush way. I don't want this to turn out to be basically a liquidity grab. Just get out of the market, and I just managed to at least recover my losses. I'll come back when it's lower. But I actually do want to see, like yourself, a bit of a pullback. My pullback comes down to in around 19,500. That's where I was hoping to see this fall a little bit below the 20K, and then I continue up. But yeah, it will get invalidated if we start losing these levels. And someone is just after mentioning as well that there is also Chinese New Year coming into play shortly. I think these things really, and I do believe I've seen a lot of people talk about it before. I actually follow a couple of accounts that do like astronomy and things like that out of curiosity, how it all falls into place. Lucky numbers. And Chinese people, like all the Asian culture, they have their symbols, they have their beliefs, and it's definitely something, I always say you don't have to believe in the same things that other people believe in, but you have to respect the fact that someone else does believe in it.
Good point.
And it will make you see things completely different. The moon, I think, not always, it's not 100%, but I believe when it comes to like really important events, it does line up. It does line up, funny enough.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. You don't have to believe it, but you have to respect it. Guys, we're analysts. What do? We take metrics, we put them together in a chart, and we try to make sense of it. We try to find what's the very first thing we try to find, guys? A pattern. Remember when I told you guys weeks ago, I think when we first started one of our shows, I said, if your grandmother's hip hurts every time right before BTC pumps and it works, let me know, please, because I will play that indicator. I don't care what it is, but as long as it's something that has correlation and it happens more often than that, that to me is a good metric to use. Now, going back to the astronomy, what you said, Asian culture really believes in this here. And here's the thing, guys, this starts becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you get a culture that has a lot of influence inside of our market in crypto, guys, even though the US is starting to ramp up its exposure, it's still an Asian market. This is still controlled heavily by Asians. So you have to think, if this is something that they believe strongly, most of them do, I would say, and they start looking at these metrics, they may behave a certain way simply based on where the moon phase lies. And I have a good friend of mine that his name is Astrodamus on Twitter, and him and I talk almost on a daily basis. And I love getting his input. He'll break it down a little bit more intricate than I can. But moon phase is something that I do have on my chart. It's an easy. You just put MP for moon phase on TradingView. It should come up. I don't know what version it doesn't come up on. I have the pro version or whatever the high version is, but it does come up on mine. And basically what it does, it gives where the moons are. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not really well versed on this, Marta, but you may be able to tell me, is this up here meaning the full moon and this is the new moon, or is it vice versa? I just don't know.
I'm confused as well, because as far as I know, tomorrow is new moon. So
new moon. Okay, so that means that's up here. Okay, so this is the new moon, the one up here. Okay, so basically, guys, this just tells you. I like doing it on the daily time frame, because the daily time frame gives you a little bit more data in between the bars. So anything to the right of this new moon is the blue. The full moon is going to be anything between in the graded areas. And just like Marta said, it's not 100%. But if you study just 2022, let's just look at 2022 as a metric. And this is real easy, real brief to cover. It doesn't take a lot.
I think a general idea is that when it's full moon, we're going to be going up, whereas if it's full moon, we're going to drop. So, like I said, it's not 100%.
New moon, we drop, right?
Yes. And it seems to be colorating with that for at least for the new one looking at.
Let's check out just the beginning of the year, guys. Beginning of the year, January 2nd, we have a new moon, and look what happens inside of the space of a new moon. What I like to look at is what happens at the beginning of the new moon, and as you can see here. On January 2022, right here, you can see that we pumped into the new moon. And guess what? Right after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days after the new moon came out, we dumped. So here's a new moon again. On this particular one, we pumped into it. The day of the new moon, we dumped. We didn't dump very long. We just dumped 4.67%, $1,800. We dumped right on the day of the new moon. But guess what? We pumped. We pumped right after that. New moon again on March 4th. What happens the day of the new moon? We were in an uptrend, so we were pumping into a new moon, and we dumped. Now, there's another astrologer that I follow, Maren Altman, and she likes to say that. She likes to say that we pump into new moons, and then it's a pivot. We come down, not 100%, but it happens more often than not. And if you look at the price action prior to the new moon, we pump into the new moon, and then we pivot. Look at this one here, guys. We pumped into the new moon, and we pivoted. It happens here. We did it here. We didn't pump into the new moon. We did, but really not that drastic, only 2 days. And we actually end up dumping after the full moon, after the new moon, 4 days after, pretty big dump. So if you just look at the metrics inside of this blue, were we in a downtrend inside of these blue shades? Or were we in an uptrend? That might even be the easiest way to look at it. So let's look at this moon phase here. Were we in a downtrend? We were kind of in a chop on this one. We were in a little bit of a downtrend halfway through that. Then we recovered. On this one here, we're kind of chopping a little bit, a little slope, nothing major. consolidation here, nothing major, kind of same thing, nothing major. The rest of the last quarter, Q2 and Q3 and Q4, it seems like we didn't do much. We just kind of consolidated. It seemed like the beginning of the year is when we started having those really impactful moves. Well, guess what we're at? We're at the beginning of the year again. Does that have any correlation, guys? I'm not the person to answer this because I just don't know. I just know that in the first quarter of the year, it seemed to be really volatile compared to the last 2 quarters of the year. That's all I can really gather from this, guys. Yeah. If you want to reach out to Ostradamus on crypto Twitter, he's got his own Patreon page, a newsletter he puts out every month, giving you the breakdown. Goes a lot more in depth in it. I just look at the most basic. Is blue down? Yeah. Gray up. That's it.
There's a very good one if you were reading into this, and her name is Olga. As far as I remember, I can't recall the full name now, but she's studied, like, I think it's GAN as well that she uses, and it's very, very thorough. I think she's one of the leaders anyway in this sort of in the astrology type of thing, and in this sort of technique of trading, let's call it. And I'd give her a follow if I was you, if this is something of interest. I mean, it's a lot to take on as well, because it's very complicated to take all the different stars and planets and their colorations and how they fall into place. But moon itself is definitely something interesting on its own. And I do think, like, when is actually, guys, if you want to even write it in the comments so I don't have to go Google it and switch the screens, when exactly is the Chinese New Year? When does it start? Is it next week or is it
February? I think it was February 3rd.
So we have about 2 weeks before, is it?
Chinese New Year 2023. Oh, here it is.
Maybe you guys in the comments want to share it as well and give us some of your opinions on this.
It's Sunday, January 22nd.
Right, so it is this week.
Oh, it's this Sunday. Yeah, it's this week. So a lot of things line up.
Just something to bear in mind, guys, that it might be a pumpy weekend. It might be just that kind of last push to kind of give us this, last leg and get everybody euphoric about we're breaking above this level. We've grabbed that liquidity. It is going to be something to really bear in mind, and then we might drop it. The drop, I hope it happens. What I just hope is that it's not going to be like the elevator down. It's just going to be a drop that's going to stay at a decent level, and it will validate like possible.
Marta, why don't we do this? Why don't we look at the chart for last year's Chinese New Year, and let's see what the price action was like. That doesn't hurt to look and see. Let's just look at it. I got it right here. It was Tuesday, February 1st. So let me go to the daily. I like looking at the day because it gives it a little bit more. Just February 1st, 2022. So let's look at February 1st, 2022. Let's look at the price action leading up to the Chinese New Year of February 1st. So I'm going to drop a vertical line right here. Oh, if I can figure out my numbers. There we go, February 1st. So let me just drop a vertical line. Okay, so here was last year's New Year's. This was on a Tuesday. So we pumped into it. And the next day after the New Year's, we did have a little bit of a drop. It wasn't something major. But I think this also correlated with the new moon.
Do you want to put them on?
Actually, yeah, that's a good idea, duh.
You do?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. Because I had mentioned there was a 4.67% drop. So, yeah, so look, the New Year ended up lining up. So we have almost the same catalyst. That's a very good observation, Marta. I'm glad you brought that up because, look, we pumped into it. The day of the new moon, we dropped, but then we kept on going. So that could be a very well, because the markets still look bullish to me. The markets do not look bearish at the moment. So we could have a weekend where we dump just like we did back in here, and then come Monday we start going back up. So we may be able to get that rubber band effect that I'm talking about down to 382, your 19.1 level, or the 0.50, the 18 $600 level. Get that rubber band pulled this weekend by this drop. and then let her go for Monday. And we have another beautiful a week of moving up, maybe to that $25,000 level. That could be that could be a possibility. I like the way the TA looks in relation
With
to
this.
that. I really do.
Because I'm just looking at the comments, and someone is saying that they think it's a 2-week event, and he thinks pump into it, bleed during or after. And Lockie's saying he's learning and he's appreciating what we're sharing here. And I just wanted to say on that note that, you know, come in, guys, tune into more of those sessions, because obviously this is a big event, the Chinese New Year. We're just talking about other cultures and how it all correlates. It's not new moon that we teach, but it is definitely
what,
something.
Marta, I didn't know this.
Sorry?
Look at this. I went back one more year because I hate just doing one metric as an analyst.
Yes.
So I guess the Chinese New Year falls on the new moons.
Yeah.
That's the beginning of it. Because look, this one lines up
Another
exactly.
thing that I just want to kind of mention on the side, and it's just something for everybody to consider. We had 13 months. I don't know when, at one point, I'm not going to recall it right now, but a month was actually measured from the moon, and it was always 28 days in a month. So we measured it from new moon to full moon, and then there was, you know, it's natural cycle. It's obviously goes back to the nature, goes back to the Thai, how it goes in and out as well. You know, how moon is meant to have an effect on our lives and nature and all that stuff. At some point, I don't know who decided this, but we cut down. We have whatever, and the leap year and stuff like that. Wouldn't have been much easier to keep the 13 months, right? And just have it like new moon, full moon.
Yeah, looking at 2021, Marta, check out the price action, almost identical to what we had in 2022 and what we have now. We pumped into it the day of the Chinese New Year, Friday, February 12th, 2021. We dumped for 2 days. Wasn't a big dump, guys, just a small little pullback. And then look, we had, again, a continuation. I'm glad we looked at this, Marta, because this gives me actually, again, guys, I don't follow the moon phases, but I do follow patterns. And if I'm seeing a pattern where we're pumping into the Chinese New Year, we're dumping, and then we're following a move like this gives me confidence that next week, we may see a very nice extension into that $25,000 range that I'm looking at. So again, something just to keep an eye out. You don't know. Now I have to look at the year before that. Give me 3 years. I love seeing 3 confirmations. So
yeah, because
I know, guys. We're getting off topic here.
It's
a pattern, and I like confirmations of 3. So if I get a third confirmation on this one here, guys, it's gonna honestly affect how I'm gonna position myself. And I know I may be a little bit crazy, guys, but again, this is a pattern. If I find a pattern that is proven more often wrong than not, it's the risk that I'm willing to take. So let's see, 2020 was January 25th, which I'm sure is going to be right here. Yep. So January 25th, this is the new moon. Let me go vertical line. Let's look at price action. Did we pump into it? And did we then pull back on that year? I don't know. So give me 1 second. I wish I would follow these a little bit more. I'm glad you brought that up, Marta. I would have never looked at this. Now it just gives me a little bit more
super interesting,
confidence.
You know,
Let's see here. What is the difference? Okay, so on this one, we had the opposite effect, Marta. But again, it still falls into the correlation because we had one directional into it. So we dumped into the full moon. However, we did dump the exact same day, even though we dumped into it and we didn't pump into it. The day of the full moon of the Chinese New Year,
BC.
The new moon. Excuse me, new moon. Yeah. You're right. New moon. It is a red day, so that means that Sunday we have a very good probability to see a pullback. How do we play that? We short it. Yeah. I'm going to open a short on Saturday night. I'm going to play it. I have to play it. I have to. But look what happens after the new year. Even though we dumped into it, we still knew after the new year, the Chinese New Year, we're always pumping. So this becomes a Monday. This is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we can now say 3 years in a row, the same exact thing happened. Chinese New Year, the day of, we dumped. The next day, what do? We pumped every single time for the past 3 years consecutively. So again, going back to not believing or believing, erase that we're talking about the moon phases. We found a pattern. Mm-hmm. Do you follow that pattern as a technical analyst? You are a technician. You are a technical analyst. What do you do when you find a pattern within the charts that has been proven at least 3 times? And I'm not going to continue to go back. When we're off the show, I am actually going to continue to go back. I want to see how strong that correlation is, but I'll do that on my own time. I encourage you guys to do the same thing. But 3 years in a row for me prior to today, but prior to this weekend is enough for me to say, you know what, it's recent enough that I want to go ahead and continue, and I'm going to put some money on it because that's what I do. I find a pattern that works. I'll throw some money on it until proven wrong, and that only is going for me. That only improves the probability as the years continue to pass. I'm going to definitely be noting this. I'm going to be taking alerts.
Do you know what you should also check when you're at this? Lunar eclipses.
Lunar eclipse. Is there an indicator?
And there is extremely interesting, but because they're much more seldom. Because I'm not going to argue here with BC guys about the bottom, and it's not about that, right? No, but I had a very interesting conversation recently with another amazing trader, and I'm hoping to introduce him to you as well. Hopefully we'll do the same as we do with BC. But what he showed me, where he put on his charts lunar eclipses, and I think they happen like every couple of years or whatever. I can't remember exactly, but every time there was a lunar eclipse, and I think we had one recently.
We had one last year on May 15th through the 16th was a lunar eclipse. So May 15th. So let's look at it. 2022. I've never heard of it. So I'm sorry. Bypassing, I've heard of it, but I've never looked at a chart in correlation with that. So I would love to do that. Love to do that.
Had basically signaled I think it kind of worked out that if there was a lunar eclipse,
15th, right
there
here.
wasn't a new bottom after. Now.
Okay. Here it is right here, Marta. So that was this day right here. We were pumping and we had a really positive day. We had a $1,261 day for 4.20%. But then the day after we did dump. Let's look, while you're talking, I'm going to look at 2021.
So I cannot recall exact details. Obviously, there is surely in the indicators you can find it, or you can map it out from Googling it as well, and how it correlated with overall market from beginning, from the first market cycle to this one. As far as I remember, after a lunar eclipse, there wasn't another bottom. So basically what I was just going to say, for him, we've reached the bottom, and we won't, unless something extreme happens, of course. We cannot talk in definites, but going on those and looking at the patterns like this, mapping that out, it kind of gave him the confluence that it has been the bottom.
Okay. Well, this one here in 2021, we had the opposite effect than we did in 2022.
I don't know if
we actually had a red day.
Lunar eclipses, and there's something else. Blood moons. Is that the same thing? See, I'm not into astrology.
I don't know.
But
I don't know.
I will message you, BC, when I know.
Okay, that'd be great. I would love to see this chart, because this one here has a lunar eclipse, but we did go quite a bit lower after that. So, but I'm sure his metric is we're probably butchering his metrics trying to explain it. But I would love to look at it, because I'm open to anything that somebody can find that has a correlation, that has a pattern that's effective. I want to know about it. I'm completely open-minded. Completely open-minded.
I mentioned it based really more of it's just something interesting we're kind of bringing up here as well, and
absolutely
people seem to be actually liking what we're talking about.
How do we play this, Marta? How do we play this lunar eclipse, knowing the information?
BC, because I'm seeing very interesting comments here, and I just want to read them out to you if you didn't see.
Yes.
Because Teres is saying that Lunar New Year is supposed to have to do with people traveling back to China, cashing in on some gains to pay for travel and visiting family in Asia. 2020 was hard to count because of the COVID and people not being able to travel back. It's one of the biggest yearly migrations. And guys are agreeing. So, this could be... So I never thought about it this way and never thought it's something to even, take into consideration.
Yeah.
But yeah. So how do we play this? What do you think?
I think that the best thing to do is look at the price action on Saturday to see where because historically, Saturdays and Sundays has just been dead. Even last week when everything was so bullish, we put the brakes on. We had an incredible week. Come Saturday, we just were in a standstill. I was actually thinking there was no way that we're going to have a dead weekend having such a bullish week.
I know.
But we didn't.
It was horrible.
It was horrible. Yes, it was. I was waiting for the fireworks. So I think that letting the price action resolve today may get us, and then looking at it tomorrow, if it's in a standstill, wherever we're at, I think I'm gonna take a short on. I'm gonna try it and see if it works out for me or not. And I will record it. I'll make note of it so that we can talk about it on our next show to see how well this moon phase worked out for me on a show. It won't be a big position. It'll just be let me try and see if it works. So I think it'll be a fun exercise to do. On our next show, we'll talk about it and we'll see the results. And then this way we can start at least maybe taking some of those moon phases into consideration and looking at the behavior of the markets in correlation with that. And maybe there's a little bit of money to be made on that. I'm not telling you guys to bet the farm, but if we see a pattern, guys, it's fun. I love doing this. It's like a game to me. It's like a video game to me. So, if I can make some money while I'm playing a game, it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Any questions that we have on YouTube?
I think people were just very excited about what we were talking. They were kind of they weren't questions, but there were more opinions, but I think I read them out to you.
Okay. I know you have been. I'm part of your Telegram group, and you had an incredible, exciting week with your alts.
Yeah, hi.
You guys were killing it on your alts. I regrettably did not take any of those positions on alts just because. Oh man, I tell you, I used to be an alt fanatic. I used to hate BTC and I used to just love alts. And I don't know, through the years, I have become one of those that I thought that I would never become, where I'm not interested in alts unless we are in a bull run. Mm-hmm. I'm just more conditioned now to BTC. And I think a lot of it has to do with position size, to be honest with you, because I think that's what affects a lot of people is having that proper position size where that's where it's really going to mess with your head. So as you increase your position size, guys, you will learn to respect the movements a lot more. And let me give an example. When you're coming to this market and you have $1,000 and you're trying to grow it, $1,000 to most people is not a lot of money. So they're like, if I lose it, no big deal. So you are more in tune to taking some really high risk because honestly, that's the only way you're going to grow it. You're not going to grow $1,000 into $10,000 taking low leverage, low positions, low risk position. It's not going to happen. It's going to take you a long time. In crypto, you can turn that in one day. You can 10x your money on an altcoin. You're not going to do that with Bitcoin. However, as you progress in your trading, you're gonna come to a point where you say, "Oh my God, I just took $1,000 into $10,000 in a matter of a week." Because it's definitely plausible. I think Marta had plays like that this week. So if you can do that, you're gonna think to yourself, "Oh my God, one day when I have $100,000, $500,000, I'm gonna turn that into $5 million in a week." That's not the correct. That's the mentality I had. So I can tell you from experience, it doesn't work out that way. You know why, guys? The more money you have, the more conservative you're going to be. And you're not going to be that conservative until you lose a lot of money. I have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on one play.
Is that
when that
Bitcoin breaking out?
Oh yeah. Okay. Good. 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 I'm looking. I'm
Love
looking
that.
here, Marta. This is what I'm looking for right now. This liquidity sweep. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
right here is what I'm looking to
It
see if we
scammed
tap.
me.
So
I left my long this morning because I thought, okay, it's toppy. It's just so snoozy. It's just like, I'm not going to just let it go and it cost me more than I'm willing to lose. And the bloody thing just turned and it's hitting my target. It's hit my target because I think I was cashing out at 21,400. And
yeah.
look at this, guys. Oh, but anyway, this
That's
is what
awesome.
happens.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So going back to what I was saying, guys, when you go into the alt game, it's fun. It's great. It's exciting. But as you get more experience in the market, a lot of times you just like, you get used to playing certain position size and you don't want to put that position size into the alt. And
Yeah.
I should be thinking the opposite. I should be thinking, you know what, just lower it.
Look,
But then it's like, I don't want to work so hard for
only
$100.
thing is with alts, I will say this out loud and everybody that's watching me, it gets really overwhelming. There are so many of them, and I even get to a point where I'm like, where do I look next? So what even I shared with my guys in Telegram was a handful, and most of them, I think there was just one that we got kicked out of because but I don't know how other people played their stop losses if they had wider stop loss. It just gets to a point, and especially when you are on CT and you go on Twitter and you look at this pump, that pump, this is what's moving now. Well, I made this much money, and it gets to a point when you're like, wow, oh my god. And you get frustrated if you entered some and yours didn't move. And that's so, that's what that kind of dark hole when it comes to alts, because there are so many. And if you can feel that you're not following the right ones because yours aren't pumping. So like I spotted a couple, and like these were the ones that it was already, a week full of pumps, and I just saw them and I was like, they look good. I think DAG, Opule was pumping, like it was very, very good. I think it's still going. And
yeah, this morning it was at $1.91.
Yeah, so like, I didn't even go that far because I thought, look, let's play it safe. These are good TPs. But like, again, depending on strategy. Anyway, just basically to touch back on those alts that I know, look, let's not underestimate the power of, and we've talked about this before, BC, as well. We talked about it, you mentioned it, a power of mastering one or two coins and their patterns and how they move, because you can really make a lot of money with that. Whereas with alts, you get to get the trends, you get to get the hype, you get to get the shit coins that basically people just pump for no reason, and you're like, where do I go next and where do I put my money? And that frustration, it's like an overdrive. And whatever is market doing to you, alts will kind of 100x it in terms of emotions. So I'm not surprised that some people don't even look at alts, because it is overwhelm in terms of
you just said that you do a handful. I don't know how. They move so fast. If I was doing an alt, I'll do like one, maybe two. But you know what I am going to do this week, Marta? I am going to take you up on one or two of your alts, because this week you guys killed it. And I was very happy for you guys. But then I was thinking, you know what? I should have took it. I had the time to do one or two. So this week I'm gonna be closely watching. I have my alert set to when you post, my alert shows up. So the next alert goes off from Marta on Monday. I'm gonna take it and I'll let you know.
Awesome. Someone asked if we can have a look at Sol.
Yeah. I got it actually here.
I think actually it's a good one now to keep an eye on next week. There's definitely a few that I promised to keep an eye on for guys. I do believe the AI narrative is not over. So I'll be keeping an eye on them. And yeah, there's definitely one or two. I will definitely call them shitcoins, guys, nothing else. They are going to pump just because they're KuCoin charts that tend to just spike up. But I always say anyway, look guys, the reason I'm entering this because it just has those spikes, clear entry, clear exit. No really, no emotions, nothing to it.
Okay, so for Sol right now, Sol has on the 4 hour time frame, has a very, very bullish indicator that I like to look at, and that's going to be the MACD.
Ooh,
the MACD
nice.
is telling me that this thing is starting to curl, and it's got a ton of room to the upside. Now, I want you to keep in mind something, that as we consolidated here, we allowed the MACD to reset. And now the MACD is curling up because of the momentum that's coming in. However, always remember this, guys, when we have gone through such a high move like the way we have, I'm going to take this off, like the way we have here, and you start seeing a series of wicks starting to form here under resistance, a lot of this is trapped liquidity. Now, what ends up happening, like I mentioned about BTC, we end up going into a range here where we're going to tap this liquidity. And we do a couple of things when we tap this liquidity. We end up not only tapping the liquidity, but we end up putting in a market structure, a reversal market structure. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but this is what I'm going to be looking at. And I'm going to tell you the invalidation of that reversal market structure. So let me talk about the reversal market structure first, because we have such a high move to the upside. We've ended it at the last EMA, which is a 300 EMA. And this is usually an indicator for me that the market has overextended. We need some pullback on that 300 EMA, especially on a higher time frame, like the 12-hour time frame. So if we sweep this liquidity, what we can happen is put in an M pattern. An M pattern is also considered a double top, which is usually a signal that the market is overextended. It's going to take some profit. Now, what invalidates that? What invalidation of that is, for me, is going to be a close and a consolidation above the 300 EMA. You see how we're consolidating on the 12-hour time frame? That's a large time frame to be consolidating this long. So if we manage to break and we do the same consolidation, what we have now done, we have now found acceptance in a new range above the prior resistance. That acceptance is, for me, valid enough to start scaling in to a position. At that point, I go into a lower time frame. I start looking for candle closes above previous candle closes to continue to scale in to those positions to reinforce my bullish stance. Keeping in mind that this just happened, and that this becomes an anchor to the momentum. So, which means that if we continue to climb higher, you have to keep this in mind. This is a huge weight. Think of you are backpacking in the mountains, and you're going vertical, and somebody behind you is putting in cans or bottles of water. It's getting heavier and heavier and heavier. Yeah, you're young, you're strong, you can do it. But how much higher can you go as they continue to put on those bottles of water? At some point, you're going to say, you know what? I need a break. I need to get some of these bottles of water out of my backpack, and then let me re-energize for a continuation. So that's kind of where I'm looking at this right now. Sol did an incredible job of putting in what I think definitely over 100%. I think it would be about 180% maybe. Let me see here. From this low to this high, 200%. Yeah. So we went up 223%. Amazing, amazing. The funny thing is that during this last little drop here, I even posted on Twitter, because they were saying this coin is dead. And that was a good indicator. I put something to the regards of when people start saying that this is, I retweeted somebody's post that said it was dead. I go, when you see this is usually a sign that this is going to break out. And sure enough, this is what happens. Because you have to understand.
I'll never forgive myself that I never bought this when it fell below the tenner.
Me either.
I am
here's the crazy part. I had an order for $8 on Sol. I got greedy, and as it was falling and the whole thing going with what's his face, somebody was liquidating I don't know how many hundreds of millions of Sol, some bankruptcy. I don't know I think it might have been FTX. It started to drop. I lowered my bid to $5. I had it at $8, Marta. And that happens, guys. You get greedy. And it gets away from you. I would have easily doubled my money, and it wasn't a big. It was like 10 grand. It still would have been nice on a $10,000 position.
I actually think with Sol, what we might see is this might not correct and at all give us those levels we are looking for. I truly believe
Yeah.
this is going to turn.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make anybody FOMO right now, but I think that coin is a dark horse. And I've been saying this for so long, like yourself, when you said about, people talking about it being dead. I didn't see it. I didn't think why. There was just obviously this FUD because of FTX. This still has amazing foundation, and it's still, there's no reason to think it won't do well. They're working, obviously. Yeah, there's a running joke. It works at the weekends or whenever it wants. But I really feel, Sol will go to triple digits in the next bull run easily.
Well, it was 200 and what, 80, 60 bucks on the last bull run. And here's the thing about Sol, guys. Sol at 260 bucks, whatever it was on the last bull run, and Sol at $8 is the exact same Sol. It's the exact same one.
Yeah.
The difference is you wanted to buy it at 230 bucks, but you didn't want to buy it at $8. And I was guilty of that. I didn't buy it at 200 something bucks because by the time I found out about Sol, it had ran too much. I was like, I'll buy this on the next cycle. Next cycle came, it hit $8, and you know why I didn't buy it, guys? I listened to Twitter, and that has proven to be such a detriment to my trading, because it doesn't matter how confident you are in your TA, you're a human. And you can research everything. But when you have a huge consensus of people telling you that, this is going to go much, much lower because there's $700 million that FTX still holding. And so you start doing the math and you're like, oh my God, we have 700 million left. Yeah, this is going to go down. I didn't base it on the technology, because for me, I understand the technology. It doesn't change. Just like Ethereum. I can't tell you how many people fought with me in 2019 when I was bullish on Ethereum, and it was dropped below $100, and they were calling me an idiot, a fool. It's never going to come back. It's broken. It's done. And when it hit 4,000, you know what I did? I went back like a 7-year-old to all those posts, and I was reposting. What? Am I an idiot now? I'm an idiot now. And they were calling me petty for doing that, but I didn't care. I didn't care, because this is the same scenario, guys. Sol is the same as it was. So if you loved it in 2000 at 236 bucks, you should love it now. Here's the thing you have to understand. Here's people's rebuttal to that. People are saying that, well, FTX was pumping the price, which is why it went so high. Okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say that was the reason it went that high. But you know what you cannot ignore. This next cycle, we have millions of more people coming into the space that have no idea about what happened with FTX. They don't even care what happened with it. They don't even understand it.
Absolutely.
And they're not going to worry about what FTX did or did not do. They're going to buy it just like the last cycle people bought it because it was cheap. Does it break? Doesn't Ethereum break? Ethereum is the biggest layer one, and it constantly breaks. There's transactions, guys, in Ethereum that wouldn't go through for days. They wouldn't go for days, and it still went up to $4,800.
Yeah.
So buy Sol. Sol will be great again.
Yeah. And
don't
also,
buy it if you don't
another
believe
thing
it.
is, you know how you're all here and you're all excited and you're seeing, Bitcoin pump. 99% of people, 99.9% of people haven't even a notion of what has happened in the crypto space market in the last 2 weeks. They haven't a clue. And do you want to know when they're going to find out? When we're probably breaking all-time high. And that's the beauty of it. You are so early, guys, and it's just, I mean, seriously, I'm so excited. Obviously, I'm excited because we're moved up. Definitely in the next couple of weeks are going to be very, very important for the direction. Somebody's just asked here as well, how often are you guys buying and selling? Me personally, I'll just answer this real quick and then give BC the floor. I'm a person who does everything. I will invest on a weekly chart, on a daily chart, on an hourly chart, and a 15-minute chart. I haven't scalped 1-minute chart, but BC has. So in terms of that, I enjoy trading so much. I would do it in any spare time, in any spare given opportunity when there's volatility. But I also look at market on a higher time frame when I invest. Now, I will only want to probably highlight one thing to you. It doesn't matter what time frame, what we're talking about when you buy and sell in terms of time. It is when you see a return on your investment. And I always encourage on paying yourself and taking that initial investment out, because the rest is free money. And another thing is, if you have a strategy that you're getting in for 5 years time, right, and you're buying every week, you really don't, that's your mentality, and that's your plan for whatever asset. But you might have a different mentality with a different asset. At the end of the day, if you didn't pay yourself, you didn't make money. So it makes no difference how often I buy and sell. In terms of time, it's more when I made money. If I paid myself, have I pocketed it and made money out of my... And BC, what is your strategy? How often?
My strategy really is, I just look for, right now, I'm not buying any else. Like I mentioned, I should have listened to Marta's alerts this week, and I didn't. I will next week. But I stick to Bitcoin, to be honest with you. Bitcoin and Ethereum are the two. And I'm going to play it when I find a setup. Some days I don't trade at all. Some days I do trade at all. Some days I do trade. If I find setups, and now guys, I look at the really low time frame. So I'm looking at the 5-minute, 15-minute time frames on most of the time, looking for those quick setups. And I'm playing in and out. As a matter of fact, right now, I just scaled into a short.
Oh yeah, I was going to say
Bitcoin.
You have your short open for a Bitcoin.
I have a. Here we go. Give me one second.
Look at this, guys. Like honestly.
So for me, here's my play right now, guys. Here's my play. I'm looking at the 5-minute on my phone. So I got my phone next to me. So here's my play on what I'm doing right now. I just entered into a short position because look, we were here. This was our resistance. I'm a big believer in back testing. You can look at you see all these lines, guys. These are all back test lines. We break out of here. What do we do when we break out? We come back, we back test, we continue. So we're breaking out here now. I'm scaling into give me 1 second, guys. Here, I got to scale. I got to put one more scale in here. I'm scaling in. And then what ends up happening, I'm at a 4x leverage right now. So if I play it I'm going to play it to basically to right here as my target. Now, if this holds, I flip it into a long. If it breaks down, I leave it open. The moment it starts to turn around, I've given myself enough wiggle room here to give me some space to be patient and see what happens in here on this back test. I'm hoping that this doesn't happen. If this starts to happen, then I can go ahead and continue it, play it down until I start seeing some support. Now, on this one right here, this particular time frame, the way I'm looking at it here, if we break here, I leave it open. What's my next point of looking for a bounce? It's going to be the 30 EMA. Look at the way the 30 EMA has held the price action. As we come down, the 30 EMA has held that up. So as of right now, as it's going up, I'm scaling into my position. I'm looking for this as my primary target number one. If it breaks, I then look at, I keep it open. I look at here. If I see a bounce, so if I see a candle close above the prior candle, I start to scale out. I start taking profit. I might not take out the entire profit, but I'll be in profit, and that's how I play the lower time frames. I am playing with $80,000 at the moment, so I don't need a huge percentage. I just need, that little. I want the meat. I'm not trying to catch the very bottom. I'm trying to catch the very top. But I can get into this meat at a 4x with 80 grand. It's a good payday. So that's kind of how I'm playing it. Now, to flip it to a long, again, if we bounce off of here, and this has been a very strong area of support, more than likely we may go up to our next level. So now I go up to a higher time frame. What was my next level of resistance that I was looking at on this chart here? My next level of resistance is right here, 2183. So now my long becomes a target of 2183 and 836, 836. And then I kind of play the same thing. Do I find resistance? Do I start scaling into profit? Do we flip this? We flip this. I can add more. Whatever I took out, I can then add. If we start breaking down, I can start scaling out of that long, grabbing as much profit as I can, knowing that I didn't sell the absolute top, but profit is profit. And that's kind of how I play it, guys. I go back and forth on different time frames because the different time frames is going to give you the bigger picture. So the 5-minute time frame is giving me a macro view of entries. Now I'm going to go up to a higher time frame, the hourly time frame. What was the macro view of that hourly time frame? What was some of the targets? This was an area of resistance, another area of resistance that we had pointed out. This is the yellow line is the prior. Remember the second lower high on the weekly time frame. So that's why I color this yellow. So mentally, I can look at this and say, even though this is a resistance that should be red, this signifies something. This tells me this was the prior lower high, just like this was a lower high. So that's kind of how I play it. We are now at 621,750. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. I need to add as we're going up higher. Give me 1 second. And that just brings up my average.
I have a long open, but not on Bitcoin.
So right now, I'm looking for that back test. So at the moment, I am a little bit underwater, but it doesn't matter. I know that the rules of the game is going to be a back test. Now, the fact that we're breaking up above 21,600, it's something that I was expecting because I was looking at the grab of this liquidity, and I also told you guys about these. Remember this? Remember the liquidity here? The last liquidity to be shaved off is 22,359. Now, we don't normally go all the way up to the very last contract. We do go into some of these bigger contracts. So look at this one here, $104 million at 21,847. That is a good catalyst to go. So I wonder if we've already hit this one yet. Yeah, we did. We're at 870. So we've hit that contract. We went after that contract. We haven't gone after this contract here. So the next big contract is going to be this one's for 49 at 927. 49,927, 49,621, so 895 for 20 million. This one's a little bit bigger. So more than likely, this is my next target, 21,927 for 49 million. But keep in mind that once we hit those liquidities, this is being driven not by spot. So you have to keep that in mind. In a bear market, spot has very little influence on these types of moves. This is derivative driven. This is why high block is so important, because when you know where those big contracts are at, you have an idea of where some of those targets are going to be. And when you look back in hindsight, say later on tonight, and you see where that peak hit, you can go back to high block and you can see what contracts they went after. And most of the time it's after these big, massive triple-digit $1 million contracts. And that's how I play it. This may seem confusing, but it's really not when you do it on a day-to-day. This is the 1 minute chart. Look at the 1 minute right here. Upper right hand, the 1 minute chart. So this is real time, really quick. It moves quick, just kind of like Marta's approach to alt. She plays a handful. I don't think I can do a handful of alters. I don't know how she does it, but I mean, that's her groove. That's where she's comfortable at. I am comfortable in this time frame looking at all these different correlations and how they play into the market and being able to maximize those moves. That's what makes me comfortable. Now, look, we're already wicking down pretty quickly.
That's
so
my,
the odds.
Sorry, that's my notification for my long.
Oh, okay, no worries. So right here, you know what? I need to.
I'm nearly there.
Yeah, I am going to pull some profits out of my long. Give me one. I have a spot long. Not a derivative long, because I don't have to pay. I don't have to pay fees when I do spot long, but when you do derivatives,
yes.
Area. So give me 1 second. Just let me get out of a little bit of. Let me shave 25% of my position
Nearly
off.
there.
25.
This is hopefully gonna pump. I'm gonna move my stop loss and.
Okay, so I've got that set there. All right, perfect.
But
so,
expect more of this, guys, as well, and probably less lives if the market picks up. I say we won't be able to do this.
Okay, I'm going to wait a
Or we're going to be basically looking at our trades all the time and updating them.
Yeah. Okay. So I have it set to take shave 25% off. I now went to the 1 minute time frame. The 1 minute time frame is not going to give me a quick direction. So right now, the way I look at the 1 minute time frame is that, again, I find my EMA and what has a 9 EMA done. The 9 EMA on this breakout has held the support and it's catching up. So if we break the 9 EMA, I know that's more probable that we're going to see a little bit more of a correction. So right now the line is right here. We already hit our first level of resistance that I had marked on the weekly time frame. That's where this line is. So right now, what have we done? We have now flipped it into support. So as long as we don't break this, I'm not shaving anything off yet because I'm a little greedy. So I have it set to 25%. I've got everything filled out, ready to go. All I have to do is hit the sell button. We break here, I take 25%. We break this 9 EMA, I take the other 25%. Then I have 50% left. If we start breaking down here, I just go ahead and remove the other 75% and I scale my way down. Would I make more money if I sell it here? Yes, I would, but I don't know. What if we turn around? What if we go higher? I don't know. I don't want to be out of the position completely if we're going to be breaking higher. So I much rather do the scale out position and just find areas in your charts that have acted as resistance, that have now flipped to support and go based off those levels. So that's kind of, at least you guys can see a minute to minute of how it's worked. And it worked out great that this happens during the show. So you guys can see a trader's life and what we look at and everything that goes through our mind as we're trying to do this. We're trying to think about, 5 different scenarios at the same time and planning for those and keeping everything ready. So on my phone, I have a trading phone, I have a chart phone, and I have the computer screen that I'm talking to you guys. And all this is basically working in the background. But when you do this as much as we have, it's kind of it's almost like you're driving and eating. You can still drive and eat. And there's a lot of stuff going on. You can turn the radio on. It just becomes second nature. There's not much to it really once you get used to that rhythm. Like Marta trading handful of alts. I don't know how she does it.
Look, I think we're going to wrap this up. It's been an hour, actually over an hour, and I think it was a great stream. There was just obviously a bit of different information this time, still very exciting. We're going to definitely keep an eye on the moon, on the new year, and what Bitcoin is doing next, and hopefully meet again sometime next week. What I wanted just to add, when Bleeding Crypto was showing you the heat map, in the description of the video you have a link to join, and you can start using it yourself if this is something that would suit your strategy or whatever. There's also a link to join my if you want to support me, you can join an exchange, and there's also a link for Bleeding Crypto's exchange. My Telegram, for the minute, it's free. It's open to all. I'm working on a Discord because I want to kind of give it more structure. Initially, it's also going to be free. Majority of it is going to be open to everybody, and I'm hoping to just do a little bit of educational things and other stuff that it will probably come at a small fee, but it's still in the works. I'm not going anywhere. It's just something that I just wanted you guys to know about and keep an eye on. But feel free. I post a lot on Twitter, but I don't know what's going on with Twitter lately. It's horrible. The algorithm don't like me much, but I have a community in Telegram that constantly get updates from me. Bleeding Crypto has amazing Discord as well, where he teaches his methods, his amazing strategies. So feel free as well, guys, to join him and follow him. And yeah, we're hoping to see you, hopefully next week after the Chinese New Year, and see how that played out. Is there anything else you wanted to mention or talk about, PC, before we go?
No, not at all. Not at all. I really enjoy this. It is a little different than we normally do, which was great. It's a great exercise to be able to show them when things pop up what we look at. So that was, I think that's really educational for a lot of people who wonder, what do they think about when something pops up? So you have a good idea. You see how we're playing both long and short. And again, when the opportunity is there, we do it. When it's not, we don't. We wait.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much for everyone who tuned in, and thanks again, Bleeding Crypto, for coming on and sharing your time.
You're very welcome.
Spending it on teaching us and this amazing, exciting stream. So we'll be talking to you guys soon. Thank you. Bye.